Is your AWS bill going up? CloudFix makes AWS cost savings easy and helps you with your cloud hygiene. Think of CloudFix as the Norton Utilities for AWS. AWS recommends hundreds of new fixes each year to help you run more efficiently and save money, but it's difficult to track all these recommendations and tedious to implement them. Stay on top of AWS recommended savings opportunities and continuously save 25% off your AWS bill. Visit cloudfix.com for a free savings assessment.
Okay, AWS CodeBuild supports ARM-based workloads in South America, Sao Paulo, and Europe, Stockholm. Just put the link in the chat. So on the whole, it looks like this is only two of their many regions, but I guess the broader theme of this is more ARM support, more Graviton.
Correct. So I think there's a need to bring more and more workloads to support ARM, and there is still a little bit of a gap. I think development environments not being ARM-based or not being specifically Graviton is a challenge for sure. You want to make sure that stuff that works locally on your machine works when you deploy it. And that's why I think we need a paradigm shift on that front of it, on the development side. And then on the CI/CD side of things, which is kind of what CodeBuild does, helps you, build up all your stuff, create the artifacts, put them into repositories, and then leverage it for deployments. The fact that those are now available on ARM more widely, they did announce, US East one, if I remember correctly, 6 months ago or so. So now that it's available more widely, I hope that there's going to be more adoption. But there are still large parts of the developer workflow that are still not covered by support for ARM. So, I'd encourage the audience to take a look at tools like DevSpaces, which allow you to do this on ARM.
Just going to mention that it's I've got it into my habit now. I'll take a repository, open it up in the standard x86 dev space, use it, make sure it's all set, and then just change the URL to our Graviton dev space. And most of the time it works. Occasionally you have to point to a different package name if those haven't been merged. Because what happens is ideally package names are built for multi-architecture, but sometimes when it gets started, it's like -ARM or something. And eventually that gets all merged up. But usually it basically works. But getting that workflow there is, I'm glad that the tooling is moving towards a more ARM-oriented world.
I would agree. And I think it needs to. It needs to move really, really fast. I don't know whether you saw that announcement, but AWS is already at a run rate of ARM constituting about $5 billion a year in revenue, which is a big deal. I mean, given how recent ARM is, and we've barely scratched the surface in terms of adoption. The fact that ARM contributes to an annual run rate of roughly 5 billion at this point is quite a significant achievement. So it looks like it's gaining tons of traction. More and more people are kind of moving on to it, even though there's still a lot of folks who have not even considered it or moved to it. But this is the bet you want to make. Graviton is the bet you want to make. And so if you're not already leveraging these tools that allow you to manage your entire end-to-end workflow on ARM, then at some point of time, it's going to prevent you from leveraging the cost-benefit analysis that the Graviton, or cost benefits that the Graviton brings to you. What did we discuss the last time, if I remember correctly? The Graviton processors are producing anywhere from 35 to 50% price performance improvement over the x86, depending on which Graviton processor and type you're on. But I think the C7Gs were what, 50, we were showing a bunch of cases with 50, 55% price performance improvement.
Yeah, and that's
Which is
over the Graviton
significant.
2, right? Not over the x86.
I think it was 40% over Graviton 2, and in total about 50 odd percent or near 60 over the x86s. So yeah, and this is not the end of it, right? They're constantly coming up with new versions of the Graviton, and there's tons more performance to be gained out of it.
And like you said, it's really cool that this ecosystem is filling out very quickly. And I was thinking back to just a couple of years ago, I was trying to get CI/CD working for ARM, and it was a real pain. So I was using GitHub, and GitHub runners didn't support ARM. So I had a NVIDIA Jetson on my desk running a self-hosted runner, and it was a bit fragile of a process. So we know that when AWS brings something in, it's robust, it's tested, and we could count on it. And it doesn't have to be this special case, right? You don't do x86 development on your cloud and then ARM development on a little box on your desk running off of a lab power supply. No, it can be part of your workflow.
Actually, we moved to that. GitHub still has the issue that you don't have ARM-based runners. So for all of our GitHub actions that we run, we've got a cluster of Graviton instances that act as our runners to process all the ARM workloads that we have.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But I wish it was less painful to do that. I just wish it was available out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely. So GitHub, if you're listening, please, ARM-based runners would be really welcome. That's where the world's going. So for this announcement, CodeBuild supports ARM. If you happen to be using these two regions, this is a good announcement. But in general, we're very excited about the tooling and development moving to ARM wherever possible. Should we give this a simplifies?
I think we'd give it a simplifies, because the more the tooling gets filled out, the simpler it gets for people. Right now, for anyone who's motivated enough to get the price performance improvements that Graviton has, you have to jump through a whole lot of hoops to make that happen. And every bit of tooling helps, reduce that burden. So definitely a simplifies.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's roll the next article about Amazon Athena. All right.